So, UFC 226 is in the books, and wow, what a crazy night of fights it was. I was just thinking when the fight finished, I was going to actually do a post-fight vlog straight after the event, but I kind of need to take a few hours to kind of process everything that happened. It was wild, it was crazy, and this sport of MMA never fails to deliver news content, just content in general, just crazy scenes. I mean, let's start with the obvious top of the bill. Daniel Cormier against Stipe Miocic. Miocic, a heavy favourite coming into this fight. And, you know, you can understand why he was heavy favourite. You know, he came off a huge win against Francis Ngannou earlier on in the year. And I think the bookmakers, I think the fans kind of said, you know what, Cormier's moving up to heavyweight for the first time since 2013. And Miocic has been on a tear in the heavyweight division, just basically blowing away all and sundry in front of him. But Cormier comes out and clinches, lands some nice punches. Stipe is on the outside. He's kicking away, trying to keep DC at distance. But when they clinch up late in the first round, Cormier is able to land a big elbow on the break and just floors Stipe Miocic. And Cormier is right on him, and he lands boom, 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 3 big shots to end the fight. And Cormier makes history, becoming the first light heavyweight fighter to go up to heavyweight to gain the belt, and is now a double champion in both the heavyweight and the light heavyweight division. Insane scenes. But even more insane was immediately after, Brock Lesnar is called to the octagon by Daniel Cormier in his post-fight interview. Just madness. I mean, Lesnar comes in and just boom, shoves Cormier back, and Dana White's in there, Joe Rogan's in there trying to get interviews here and there. Lesnar is calling everyone a piece of shit, left, right and centre, calls Stipe Miocic a piece of shit, calls Cormier a piece of shit, basically calling the whole heavyweight division pieces of shit, and it was just bizarre. I mean, looking on social media, it was very WWE type of kind of pantomime going on. But I mean, at the time, I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. You know, it's going to be a big fight down the line. I mean, okay, a few hours removed, you know, it doesn't bother me as such. I know some MMA fans and journalists just think it's completely stupid. Like, it's a big enough fight as it is without the kind of pantomime nonsense behind it. But I mean, the thing is, you know, WME are in it to make money. They spent a lot of money in the company in the UFC when they took it over for around $4 billion. They want to get their money worth. They want to get their money's worth, and this is a perfect fight to do it. I mean, by all accounts, Cormier and Lesnar are pretty good friends. I believe, according to Jeremy Botter, an MMA journalist, that the guys are actually pretty good friends and talk on a regular basis. So it's going to be a big money fight for both of them. They can sell this down the line all they want, you know, in a way to draw casual fans in. You know, it could be a bit of a tedious affair, but you know, Cormier's earned it. He earns a big payday. He's close to retirement, as he said. He's going to retire in March. The two of them can make big money, and it's just hard to know really when the fight might take place. There's rumour that it might be in November in Madison Square Garden in New York. The UFC released their end of year kind of schedule for events. So that's the one that kind of makes sense, I guess, in terms of kind of a big money draw. But in the post-fight press conference, Dana White was kind of saying it's definitely the fight to make. But when he was questioned about Lesnar being in the USADA drug testing pool, he didn't really have any kind of clue about it. Lesnar as well was asked when he left the octagon to go backstage by Mark Raimondi, I think it was, from MMAfighting.com, about being back in the USADA testing pool. No comment pretty much made. But there is, you know, there was a story going around a little while ago about an anonymous fighter being put into the USADA testing pool. So people kind of put two and two together and said, is it Brock Lesnar, you know, under this alias? so that he can get tested. But it's hard to know really when the fight can go ahead, because we just don't know when USADA are going to test. If he's cleared, who knows? I mean, it's certainly an interesting fight to make. I don't think Lesnar is what he used to be, and Cormier is obviously just an incredible talent. We've seen him dispatch Miocic in pretty much devastating fashion in a way that not many people envisaged him to do so. So hopefully that it's interesting to see where it goes. He earns a big money fight, as I say. Fingers crossed that they kind of make the fight and he can make a ton of money, both of them. And sure, who knows? But it was a great fight, and really, I'm happy for DC. I would have been happy with either guy winning. Miocic, a class act, and anyway, posting on Twitter saying that it wasn't his night and said he feels okay. And I'm sure that he will be back up there very, very soon, staking a claim for heavyweight gold once again. I don't doubt that in my mind. In other heavyweight action, if you can call it action, the co-main event saw Francis Ngannou against Derek Lewis in one of the most pathetic fights I think I've ever seen in the UFC. And I don't say that lightly. I know people, want to say that this fight was the best fight ever because, recency bias and things like that. But this fight was genuinely one of the worst I've ever seen in any division, in any fight, possibly in MMA, not just the UFC, but possibly in any fight. Both fighters threw nothing really over the 15-minute fight. I mean, Ngannou threw one shot in the first round, maybe a couple of kicks in the second round, and tried to clinch and whatever in the third round. Derek Lewis cited back injuries actually initially in between rounds, in between the first and the second round. We all know Derek Lewis has a history of back problems. They reared their ugly head last night. He tried his best. He was peppering off a few shots here and there, but just couldn't get anything going. I don't know what kind of agony he was in. I'm pretty sure it was probably intense, trying to throw things, and trying to end the fight. But it was just, it was honestly one of the most pathetic fights I've ever seen. The crowd were just, it was toxic. It was an absolutely toxic environment for the fighters to be in, but they didn't help themselves. They couldn't help themselves. My theory on it is that Ngannou, fighting on the same card as Stipe Miocic right before him, and I think because he lost in such a brutal fashion against Miocic in January, I think that might have played on his mind a little bit. His mentality might have been, okay, I got badly beaten last time out. I was exposed in many areas of my game, so I'm going to take a more cautious approach. But I mean, there's being cautious and then there's doing nothing. I mean, Herb Dean had to stop the fight to bring the fighters in and tell them to actually fight. You've done all the talking, time to fight. Look, it's not really, both of them were at it. There was two fighters in the cage. Derek Lewis was very harsh on himself as well in the post-fight interview at the press conference, saying that he doesn't deserve a title shot. He said it was a really bad performance. Says it was all on him because he was the one that called Ngannou out. He was the one that wanted to make a statement to knock him out, and nothing transpired in the fight. It was just horrendous. It was, for a heavyweight fight, it was incredibly just awful. I mean, there's no other word for it. There was no post-fight interview, rightly so, because what are you supposed to interview about? Why didn't you engage? What happened? It was just really bad, awful performances. I don't know what kind of state of mind Ngannou was in. I know Derek Lewis picked up that injury, took some blame for the fight, as both men should. Haven't heard anything from Ngannou's camp yet, but it'd be very interesting to see where he goes from there. It was dull. It was just awful stuff, and it's a shame because on paper you would say the one fight on the card that is guaranteed to deliver would be Francis Ngannou and Derek Lewis, and it didn't. It was pretty bad. Definitely, if you haven't seen the fight, definitely avoid. It's not going on any highlight reels. That's for sure. I'm going to skip a couple of fights because I'm going to go run them through a few of them on the podcast later on in the week, so I won't go through a huge amount of detail really. But opening up the main card was Khalil Roundtree against Gokhan Saki, and I'm pretty sure the entire world and its dog had Gokhan Saki to win this fight pretty handily against Khalil Roundtree. But that didn't happen. I mean, both fighters were coming out swinging big. They were trying to put each other on the back foot big, and it the duration of the fight, as long as it lasted, I mean, oh wow, it was looking heavy. I mean, but Khalil Roundtree just nailed Saki with a straight left, and that just dropped him in 90 seconds of the fight. And that's a huge claim, a huge name for him as well. In the 205-pound division now is looking interesting, because now DC is a heavyweight champion, is set to fight Brock Lesnar. So does Khalil Roundtree, stake a claim for maybe an interim title fight coming down the line with a big win like that? Because the division now needs challengers, and if DC is to, when DC is to retire, I mean, does he fight at 205 again? I just don't know. But Roundtree certainly made a claim that he should be a top guy in that division and should really, really kind of push on now. I mean, that was a huge win against a really, really rated guy, a very talented striker, a very technical kickboxer, and he just nailed him. Really impressive, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Roundtree can do, because momentum is a big thing in this sport, and hopefully the sky is certainly the limit now. He has a ceiling of which you can see through, so hopefully he can stake a claim and really, really push on now. But speaking of momentum, Paulo Costa against Uriah Hall was phenomenal. I mean, Paulo Costa, I said in the pre-fight preview that he could really, really also stake a claim for title contention too. I believe that he is a very well-rounded, talented fighter. He's been on a tear, and I mean, Uriah Hall is no slouch, and Uriah Hall was nailing Costa with a straight left jab pretty much for the entirety of round number one, and Costa was eating it and eating it and eating it, and just was firing back with big punches of his own. He was throwing everything into these punches, and second round, both fighters were engaged in a real back and forth brawl. Hall connected big. Costa took a step back, then threw a punch, stepped forward, caught Hall. Real phone box fighting stuff. Then all of a sudden, Uriah Hall is on the floor after Costa lands a huge big uppercut, which knocks him clean out. It was just a magnificent performance. It was just an all-out brawl, and it was such an exciting fight. It was nice to see Uriah Hall back in there after all of his medical issues. It was just a fun fight, and I'm delighted for Paulo Costa. I think he can really, really go places. Dana White even speaking in the post-fight press conference, saying that he's definitely a marketable guy, good-looking guy, big, strong, talented fighter, and definitely a fighter that can headline any Brazil card. Maybe not any Brazil card, but definitely a fight night card. It's definitely coming up soon, I'd say. Really, really, just a great performance, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to seeing him back in action again. I don't know who we'll get, but it's definitely warranting a big named opponent. Speaking of other fighters who can make a claim for a title, Rafael Asansol now on a 4-fight winning streak, with a really impressive performance against Rob Font, and he's another fighter that I noted in the pre-fight vlog. Consistency is key, and he's sneakily gone under the radar, and I believe that he can absolutely really make a claim at 135 for a big title shot. I mean, he said it himself in the post-fight interview that he may not finish fights, but he certainly wins a lot of them, and he's doing so on a consistent basis. And he had a really impressive performance against Rob Font. I do believe Asansol could have possibly finished the fight, but he was really just showcasing some absolute dominance on the ground. Font just couldn't do anything off his back. He had some nice success in the first round. He was landing a couple of punches. Asansol was firing back too, but the second round, Asansol came out like a house on fire and just took him down completely, and just really exerted his dominance, just showcases wrestling, showcases Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on the ground, was always scrambling, was always looking for something. He almost had a Kimura, almost had a nice armbar too, but I mean, it was just a really nice performance. And I definitely think Asansol is next in line for a title shot. Obviously TJ Dillashaw and Cody Garbrandt fight next month, but I definitely think Asansol is waiting in the wings, I think, for the winner of that fight. And I'm definitely one that I'm looking forward to if the UFC do go ahead and make that fight. Moving on then, I guess the last fight I'm really going to focus on is what's on the UFC Fight Pass prelims, and amazingly this fight was on the UFC Fight Pass prelims. This could have been on any main card of any fight card. It could have even been on the pay-per-view main card itself. Dan Hooker took on a really dangerous fighter in Gilbert Burns, arguably his toughest test so far in the UFC, and Hooker is on a tear. I mean, he just blasted Gilbert Burns really early in that fight, and it was a phenomenal performance, and I really enjoyed it. And Hooker himself even said, give me someone in the top 10, you're putting these guys in front of me and I'm knocking them down. I think I deserve someone better. And he's dead right. It was an impressive performance. He's no slouch. He's a real contender at lightweight. And personally, I would really like to see him fight the winner of Justin Gaethje against James Vick. I think that would be a great stylistic matchup. I think it will be a big test for Hooker. He'll get his wish. I think he's ready for it. I think it's a big challenge, and I think it's a fight that makes a lot of sense. Even the loser of that fight would be a big step up in competition for Dan Hooker, who I really like as a fighter. He's a marketable guy. He's an impressive guy. He's an impressive specimen. He's got really heavy hands, and I think he's one of the most underrated people in that division, who can really stake a claim to do some big things. So I'd love to see him do it. I'd love to see him go on and fight the winner or the loser of James Vick against Justin Gaethje, which is happening in a couple of months' time. And I highly, I highly rate Dan Hooker, and I think it's a fight that makes a lot of sense, and I can't wait for it. So yeah, really, that's the kind of the main talking points really of a crazy UFC 226. Really enjoyed it. I'm going to go into full depth on the card on the podcast later on this week. Obviously, you can keep up to date on Twitter. You can find out when that podcast will drop. So the details obviously are going to be down below in the description, so you can follow along with all the social media, the website, a lot of stuff to digest this week after the podcast, after the event took place. So really enjoyable night of fights, obviously bar the co-main event, but I mean, it is what it is. And really, until next time, until during the week, if you fancy listening to the podcast, I'll see you then.